Hello, it's Tom Donald from the London Contemporary School of Piano. Today we're going to talk about 7th chords. Major, minor and dominant 7th chords. So these chords, these three types of chords, are a source of confusion to so many music students. And today I want to clear it up once and for all so you're really clear on these three types of chords. Major 7, minor 7, dominant 7. What's the difference and how do we know? If you're a fan of our work, by the way, at the London Contemporary School of Piano, you should head on over to our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, and ask for our free resources pack. One of the things that's in our free resources pack is the Holy Trinity of 7th Chords lead sheet, which is just a special handout that will help you study and determine these chords a bit more. It's a really good supporting material for today's topic. So let's start with the first type of chords, the major 7th chord. What is a major 7 chord? Well, I'll start just by playing a C major 7 chord right now. And I'm playing it in root position, just starting on the root note. What sort of sound does this give you? It's really important that we don't just think of these chords as a theoretical concept, but as a real live musical sound that we're going to need in the music we play. What does that remind you of? What sort of vibe does that give you, that sound? You know, I think of the opening of a song like The Girl from Ipanema. I always find that the major 7th chord is like sitting on a lounge chair somewhere, having a bit of a holiday. Yet at the same time it's quite dissonant. That major 7th interval is quite tense, but then when you fill it out with all of those notes from the major chord, the major triad, you get a really different feel. And it's good to transpose this immediately into other keys. So I'm playing an E flat major 7 chord, an A flat major 7 chord, an F major 7 chord. So what characterizes it? How do we calculate it, so to speak? Well, you can think of it as this. If I play a C major chord, and I'm playing an octave here on my C major chord, I just drop that octave down a semitone. So the major 7th chord is a semitone under the octave, and it's built on a major chord. C major plus the B, which is a semitone below the octave. So you can find this in other keys. If you're sitting at the piano now, let's do this together. What about a G major 7 chord? So, have a guess. You've got the G major chord. So what is the major 7th note? It's a F sharp. It's also the 7th note from the scale, the major scale. That's another way to find it. And again, it's a semitone below the octave. What about an F major 7 chord? So we've got the E there that makes the major 7, and again that's a semitone below the octave. And you can get creative with this. Why don't you come up with a chord progression where you just randomly play major 7 chords? It will all actually melt together and sound really nice. We're going to do this now. I was being totally random there. I was not thinking of a scheme of notes or chords that were going to fit together. I was just milking out that sound of the major 7 chord. And yeah, for most part, it worked quite well. And I was even playing all of those chords as root chords. I wasn't using any inversions. I wasn't using any fancy voicings. I was just really clarifying my major 7 chords. So let's go on to the next category, dominant 7 chords. So students often really mix up these two chord groups. What is a dominant 7 chord in comparison to a major 7 chord? So a dominant 7 chord, again, has a lot in common with the major 7 chord, but just a warning, it sounds very, very different. So you don't want to be mixing these two up. So this is the dominant 7 chord. I'm playing a C dominant 7. Now, just to make it even more confusing, when you see a dominant 7 chord on sheet music, on chord notation. It won't say C dominant 7, it will just say C7. And I think this is why so many people get mixed up. So when you see a C major 7 on chord notation, you'll see a C abbreviation, C major 7, C M-A-J 7. And on jazz notation for major 7 chords, you'll see a triangle in a 7 on jazz scores. So that all means the same thing, major 7. But for dominant 7, we just call it a nickname, C7, just like my name is Tom, short for Thomas, right? So we don't be formal, we don't have to call it a C dominant 7, we just call it C7. Sounds very different, but what does it have in common firstly with the major 7? It's still built on a major chord. A dominant 7 is still built on a major triad, C, E and G, but the B flat is a semitone below the major 7, which you could therefore say is a full tone below the octave. It gets a bit theoretical, a bit of calculation now required, so perhaps use your ear. It doesn't sound like that opening lounge chair girl from Ipanema sound. So what does that sound like? Well, I'll show you a little party trick. That's a great way to play Happy Birthday. You just spread a dominant 7 chord across the piano. And everyone knows to go, Happy Birthday. And you don't even have to play Happy Birthday. That's what I do. Great way to get yourself out of having to play Happy Birthday on the piano. Just play a dominant 7 chord. It is a very different chord to the major 7. And the major 7 sort of feels like it's static. It's just sitting on a lounge chair, having a nice holiday. The dominant 7 chord, though, it feels a little different. It feels like it's going somewhere. But again, it depends on the context. If you're ever playing blues, lots of blues music, blues will use lots of dominant 7 chords. You won't hear very many major 7th chords in blues songs. You'll hear lots of dominant 7. So here's a little shortcut for our ear. Schmoozy, bluesy, right? Major 7, schmoozy, dominant 7, bluesy. So, and I think this is why a lot of students struggle with these 3 chord groups, because now we're going to talk about minor 7 chords. And I think the reason why a lot of people struggle memorizing these 3 groups of chords is because of our human brain. We like things in black and white. Unfortunately, we like the easy, simple world of major and minor. Because it's black and white, right? Major, happy, minor, sad. But when you add sevenths and extended dissonances to the music, the whole sort of easy paradigm of major or minor is shifted into a more complex world. And actually, even if you look at jazz harmony is almost like a 3-party system of harmony. You've got major 7, minor 7, and dominant 7 in this dance together. And we're no longer in the world of major being happy and minor being sad. It's just a little bit more nuanced than that. There's more going on. There's more complexity, more elegance, a bit more sophistication than just the simple, clean major and minor world. Not that there's anything wrong with that. There's something beautiful about that too. But the jazz paradigm of these 3 chord groups is a little bit different. So on to minor 7. So a minor 7 chord is unsurprisingly built on a minor triad. And the 7th note, again, like the dominant 7, is a tone below the octave. It's not a semitone below the octave. If you accidentally do that, you're playing what is known as a minor major 7 chord. That chord's not used very often, so we're not talking about that chord today. I'm talking about the 3 types of chords that are used most often. Major 7, minor 7, dominant 7. So, back to this minor 7. Just like the dominant, it is a full tone below the octave. So what does that sound like? I always think the minor 7 chord, if minor's meant to be sad, a minor 7 chord, whilst it is a bit melancholic, it is a bit more uplifting than just the typical square minor. It's a little bit more... Perhaps it's the optimistic version of minor. It's definitely a very thoughtful chord. And again, you can just compose pieces of music or chord progressions where you just explore the quality of that specific sound just by randomly moving across different chords. C minor 7, D minor 7, A minor 7, G minor 7, right? It just has a really nice quality to it. So you can do that with all 3 of those chord groups. and it will be really effective. So let's do a bit of an ear test now. Like, I know you can see my hands, but I'm just going to play a chord. I'm going to play 2 chords in a row and tell me what order did I go in. Did I go major 7 to dominant 7? Did I go dominant 7 to major 7? What about this? Which way around did I go? Have a think. Just go by your gut feeling. So I went major 7 to dominant 7. Here's a really nice way you can test that, just in a pop song. So think of the Beatles song, Something. Something in the way she moves. It's just a nice, that melody actually just floats on the major 7 to the dominant 7. So if I do that in C, if I play the first 4 bars of Something by the Beatles, something in the way she moves. There's my major 7. Now my dominant 7 attracts me like no other lover. Then I go to an F major. Let's do the same thing in D major. Something in the way she moves attracts me like no other lover. So you get that nice blend of the chords, and that by practicing just that in different keys, I can do it in E flat major, for instance. I'm getting some real clarity now on major 7 to dominant 7. So that can really help us get more clear on the functions of those different chords. That's a nice exercise. So let's go into some more advanced voicings. So, because many of you were like, yeah, you're playing this in root chords, it's a bit too easy for me. So what you can do, and by the way, if you really need some good supporting help, visit our website, contemporaryschoolofpiano.com, ask for our free resources pack. And part of the free resources pack, we will send you to a special site where it's like a private link where you can see a lot of supporting materials for our YouTube channel. But there's one sheet, a magical sheet. It's probably one of the ones I'm most proud of. It's called the Holy Trinity of 7th Chords. Get that sheet, print it out, hang it up on your wall somewhere. And by the way, if you're visiting our site and you're not getting the emails, it means it's going to your spam box. So just check your spam box, right? You know what email's like these days. It's not always very reliable. So anyway, let's now talk about some different voicings. Now, when you get to inversions on 7th chords, we end up in slightly more murky territory. So I want to make this easy and simple and accessible to you. So this technique I call thumb on the 7th, and it's a really lovely technique. Because playing 7th chords, be it major, minor or dominant, when you've just got the 7th at the top, it starts to sound a little predictable. So this is a really nice alternative technique, because we flip the 7th and put that as the lowest note. So I'm going to play a C major 7, and notice how I've got my thumb on the 7th. So I've got B, C, E and G. It's a little warmer. So I can do the same thing with a dominant 7, and I can do the same thing with a minor 7. And so I can get some different sounds. So here's another piece I can study. If you think of, this is a really cool progression. It's used in lots of soul, sort of pop soul sort of songs, neo soul. And it's a 4-3-2-1 progression. If I play that in the key of F major, that would be B flat, A minor, G minor, F major. And I put 7ths on them all. So I get a B flat major 7, an A minor 7, a G minor 7, an F major 7. So I'm now going to put my thumb on the 7th and play it with that alternate voicing. And back to the root voicing. I'm going to do the same thing in the key of C major. So that means I'll start on chord 4, which is F major, F major 7, E minor 7, D minor 7, C major 7. Thumb on 7 now. Oh, what did I do there? I added a passing chord. I went F major 7, E minor 7, And then I just got the E minor 7 and went down a semitone to all black keys to E flat minor 7. Whoa, doesn't that sound good? D minor 7, C major 7. So it went like this: F major 7, E minor 7, D minor 7, C major 7. Oh, and I added another fancy chord there. I added a D flat major 7. Why not? I just kept going down in semitones. I'll do that now with the 7th, thumb on the 7th. Oh, that's another thing with major 7 chords. If you just move up the octave and play them in arpeggios, and just go to a hotel lobby, sit there doing that, get your tip jar out, it's your cocktail piano, isn't it? By the way, major 7s, minor 7, dominant 7s, they're not just a jazz-related language. They're used in a very specific way in jazz. I think actually in jazz harmony, it's the party of those 3 chords, the combination of them, that starts to dominate the musical narrative, where in classical music, 7th chords are more of a decoration. However, these chords are used in classical music. They're used in pieces by Bach, written in 1722. So these chords are not new, but it's amazing how over human history we have redefined them, reused them in so many different ways with different cultural and musical contexts and meanings. So explore these chords. They are a little confusing at first, but use your ear and get involved in the artistry of the sound it makes, and just get yourself involved in the music. And I look forward to speaking with you about these topics soon. Thank you very much.